things seem to be getting more and more concerning with regards to China, the People's Republic of China, which is a one-party communist dictatorship and has been for like 70 years now, whatever it is. And so I think it's worth going over a few important events that led up to where we are now and the United States' response to it, which I'm not terribly impressed with. So in March 2018, President Xi Jinping became president for life. They used to have a two-term limit on the presidency of China, but they removed this so Xi Jinping can be in power for life. These were passed in the sitting Congress with only 2 delegates voting against the change, 3 abstaining. Who knows what happened with that over nearly 3,000 votes. And so this is the sort of informal consolidation of Xi Jinping's political power over the party, enshrining his name and political ideology in the party's constitution, elevating his status to its level of its founder, Chairman Mao, as the BBC tell us. And yesterday, no, in fact, maybe today, I think it was, the Communist Party of China, if we go to the next one, John, has formally adopted a landmark resolution establishing Xi Jinping as the equal to party founder Mao Zedong.
That's not really that surprising, to be perfectly honest.
I mean, this really looks like a hair restoration advert, doesn't it? Like, now I've got this up. But yeah, so it's become formalized. So Xi Jinping is, of course, pursuing these dreams of grandeur. And so you had him vowing recently, last month, in fact, to reunify Taiwan with mainland China. We go to the next one, John. Xi Jinping vowed on Saturday to realize a peaceful reunification with Taiwan, though he did not directly mention the use of force after weeks of tensions. Let's be honest, that's definitely on the cards. Taiwan is a democracy, and it's come under increased military and political pressure from Beijing to accept its sovereignty, but Taipei, which is the capital of Taiwan, has pledged to defend their freedom, and only the Taiwan's people can decide their future. Speaking at Beijing's Great Hall of the People, Xi said the Chinese people have a glorious tradition of opposing separatism, which means be part of our empire or die.
Yes. That's just code for imperialism,
yes,
as far as I understand it.
Which is ironic, considering people like Mao would constantly criticize the imperialism of the West. Well, now we have the Eastern imperialism well on its way to return. Taiwan independence separatism is the biggest obstacle to achieving the reunification of the motherland and the most serious hidden danger to national rejuvenation. The most serious hidden danger to national rejuvenation. Why? Yeah. This is just words, isn't it, Z? Just words. No one should underestimate the Chinese people's staunch determination, firm will, and strong ability to defend national sovereignty and territorial integrity. The historical task of the complete reunification of the motherland must be fulfilled and will definitely be fulfilled. This is code word for I'm going to get millions of people killed because I have resolution. The firm will is not within the people, it is within the party, and they are going to get people killed. But anyway, it seems that Taiwan itself doesn't want reunification. Polling from December 2020 is the most recent polling I could find. I'm sure there's more accurate stuff, but who knows? I don't know much about internal Taiwanese politics, so I'm just going to have to go on what I can find from outside of it. Say that a plurality of those polled, 48%, would now characterize the relationship with the Chinese mainland as hostile. Yeah, and that's a year ago. It was hostile.
Yeah, that's saying the least of it.
Yeah, the percentage that believed the relations were extremely hostile has gone from 3% to 12%. In 2017, a majority had described relations as friendly. So you can see how things are changing. 40% still favour strengthening economic ties and trade relations with the mainland, but this dropped from 53% in the previous poll, whereas those prefer weakening economic ties has grown to 35%. 51% of Taiwanese people support diplomatic efforts to reduce tensions, only 38% favour an increase in military capabilities, and support for immediate unification with the mainland had about 1% approval.
Well,
so
yeah,
1% of Taiwanese were like, yeah, we should join the Chinese Communist Party.
I'm surprised it's that much, to be honest.
Yeah, me too.
And China doesn't even consider Taiwan a country, so...
Well, exactly. 60% opposed Beijing's one country, two systems unification scheme, which of course they just rolled out to Hong Kong. I'm sure that's going brilliantly. Rather, the majority favours the status quo. The percentage of people who prefer the status quo indefinitely has grown from roughly 24% to 31%, but it's noteworthy that 75% continue to believe that Taiwan is already an independent country called the Republic of China.
Which it is.
Well... in their view, and I mean, from a practical perspective.
Well, yes.
And so Taiwanese President Tsai Ing-wen, I think it is, when, again, in 2020 this was, when this came up, they said, well, look, we're not going to join you, and this is not going to happen. And it seems that since this point, as they say at Reuters, this is likely setting the stage for ever worsening of ties. Seems to be going that way, since recently it was revealed that apparently the Chinese Communist Party have been performing some sort of military drill with mock-ups of US warships. So we can go to the next one, John. That implies that the Chinese military are preparing. If you can scroll down a bit, just so you can see the picture of the actual warship in the desert. There we go. Apparently that's a full-size mock-up of one of the US American aircraft carriers. They built these in the desert of the country's Xinjiang region. Satellite images show. One of the images captured by the US Space Technology shows a structure shaped like a military aircraft carrier placed on rail tracks. This appears to be, military testing of some form. Beijing has obviously been developing and testing anti-ship ballistic missiles for years, and the US has warned that in recent months China has been rapidly expanding its military, including its nuclear capabilities, as tension builds in the South China Sea. And you may remember that China recently tested one of, a hypersonic missile, which was very concerning. It says woke General Milley when he can take the time away from purging the US military of white rage or whatever it was he was whining about. General Milley said that he said it's not a Sputnik moment, but it's very close to that. He said it's a very significant technological event. Chinese military capabilities are much greater than that single test, he said. They are expanding rapidly in space, in cyber, and in traditional domains of land, sea, and air. China is very significant on our horizon. He was the only general to speak out about this, as far as I'm aware.
Well, I don't know how, just from a layman's perspective, I don't necessarily know how wise it is for the US military to give a perspective on this, because then the Chinese can know a perspective on it to a certain extent.
Yeah.
But also, do you know what? I don't really know what a hypersonic missile is.
It's a missile that is particularly difficult to intercept, because other missile defense systems rely on missiles traveling at below a certain speed, and if you can make a missile travel at a particularly high speed, it means it's very, very difficult to intercept it with your own missiles.
Okay, so sounds like it does what it says on the tin.
Yeah, I mean, I'm no expert. If I've got that wrong, please do correct me, but that's my understanding of it. And this is something that is deeply concerned the Americans. But as we talked about the other day, the American military recently in training exercises got absolutely beasted by the UK military.
Yeah, they've not been doing great. I mean, when you've got people like Milley in charge,
yes,
I'm not that surprised.
Exactly. They're trying to create an egalitarian military and open it up to female and trans people to have equal opportunity to be on the front lines, to die for...
Yeah, I don't want an egalitarian military. I want a strong military.
Yeah. Sorry.
Historically, that's what they're for.
Exactly. And it seems that the Biden administration has been doing their best to essentially purge elements of the military because they fear that they are ideologically compromised in some way. And so now it honestly looks like America probably can't win wars, especially after the withdrawal from Afghanistan and the weakness shown there. And so it doesn't surprise me that The Hill, again, a very prestigious and important insider publication, just published this article the other day saying, well, should just America preemptively surrender to China now and get it over with?
Should we just pull a France?
Maybe. I mean, if that, I don't think anyone in America is feeling very confident about the fact they can win. And I'm not feeling very confident about it either, to be honest. I'm very suspect about America's ability to actually win a large-scale war at this point. They say that China is in the business of winning and doing what's best for its long-term survival. That survival, its leadership believes, is predicated upon establishing itself as a preeminent military power in the world. That same Chinese leadership sees but one country in the way of that goal, the United States. As of today, China believes it is ascending so rapidly and dominating so completely across the board in the areas of land, sea, air, and cyber and space power that it no longer has to concern itself with the niceties of diplomatic language or pretend to disguise its true intentions. About 10 days ago, Biden misstated the United States policy with regard to Taiwan. When asked at a CNN town hall meeting if the United States would defend Taiwan if it should be attacked by China, the president answered, yes, we have a commitment. Whoops, and cue instant backpedaling from the Biden White House. The next morning, White House Press Secretary Jen Psaki had to clarify the president's erroneous response by saying in part he wasn't announcing a change in policy, nor have we changed our policy, we are guided by the Taiwan Relations Act. After Biden's misstatement and correction from his staff, China's foreign ministry spokesperson Wang Weibin did not even bother to diplomatically soften his response or hide his contempt. And this is where I think it actually starts getting important. He says, On issues related to China's sovereignty and territorial integrity and other core interests, there is no room for China to compromise or make concessions, and no one should underestimate the strong determination, firm will, and strong ability of the Chinese people to defend national sovereignty and territorial integrity. And the author of this says, is anyone in our government, military, or news media paying attention? This is not a game, and the People's Republic of China is not bluffing.
Those are good questions. I mean, the thing is, under normal circumstances, I wouldn't consider what's going on in America currently to be normal in any sense. I would say that China probably wouldn't have a chance because the US has for so long been the preeminent military power across the entire globe.
But previously, the US institutions that made it strong, such as its military, were well run and well administered.
Yes. And they didn't have a man who came out and said, oh, we'll protect Taiwan, and then his government immediately backpedals whether... I mean, we don't even know necessarily whether Biden approved that backpedaling or not, so they don't really
doesn't matter, I think.
They don't seem to have much respect for his word as law. But yeah, it's difficult to tell. I still think if China ever tried anything like a full-on invasion of America, of the US, they would have an incredibly difficult time of it.
Yeah, but that's not really the problem. The problem is America is underpinning the sort of peace-driven, diplomacy-driven world order. And China is deliberately threatening that.
Yeah.
And everyone seems to be like, right, okay, is China a paper tiger, or is it actually going to be able to take punches and continue to advance?
Unless a world power like the US steps in with some authority, they're just going to keep trying to push their borders.
Exactly. Would this have happened under Donald Trump? Well, it didn't.
No, it didn't.
You know, it didn't. They kept their mouths shut under Donald Trump and bided their time. But they say, but in the Hill, they carry on. So what's the big deal regarding a hypersonic missile? Well, three things. As the CEO of Raytheon recently pointed out, the United States is years behind China in this technology. And it probably doesn't help that America is swarming with Chinese spies who are stealing their technology. Anyway, second, the missile, capable of carrying a nuclear warhead, can fly at very low altitudes and is so maneuverable that it becomes virtually impossible to be shot down by existing missile defense systems. This is called a game changer of epic proportions. And don't think that the Chinese Communist Party are not aware of this ability. Again, we either see the People's Republic of China as the number one adversary of the United States and a nation consumed with global and even near space domination, or we don't. If we do, then in the interest of our national security and very survival, we have an obligation to defend ourselves. If those with power prefer to let China have its way, then why not hand them the keys to our country and be done with it? Just to be clear, China is a fascist country at this point. It's a complete totalitarian state, and it's run by a dictator who is constantly rattling the sabers at the liberal democracy that is trying to enforce world peace, and the weak people running this liberal democracy seem to have no impact on the people running China. They do not seem to intimidate them at all, and it seems that people are afraid that the American military simply can't even win wars. Not good times ahead, is it? Thanks for watching this clip from the podcast of the Lotus Eaters. We broadcast live on lotuseaters.com at 1 PM UK time every weekday. And we also have loads more content that we don't put on YouTube, such as the memes and video comments from our community. Every week we also have new episodes of our regular series, Contemplations and Epochs. In Contemplations, Josh explores interesting and diverse topics, such as the science behind the need for fathers in the home, or why people believe in ghosts and the paranormal. In Epochs, Bo and I go on, often at length, about various events and periods in history that are particularly fascinating. We've just finished a 5-part mini-series on the 100 Years' War, which I particularly enjoyed right up until the end of it when, spoiler alert, the French won. Alongside our excellent team of in-house writers, we also commission articles from outside contributors, and silver and gold tier subscribers have access to an audio recording of each premium article, so you don't have to read it yourself. We interview various contemporary thinkers and entertainers, as well as host the recordings of our live events. We also have a series of premium video content on the site, which we think is particularly worthwhile, or we simply can't put on YouTube because their editorial policies prohibit reasonable discussion on the subject. Personally, I think the deep dives we've been doing into critical theory and critical race theory are most important, as we reveal the origins of intersectionality and the plan that the radical left has for our societies. We are funded almost exclusively by our subscribers, so if you'd like to join us in the work we're doing, head over to lotuseaters.com and we'll see you there.